everybody, and welcome to another video. My name is Jack, and today I am going to be sharing my review of the newest Dreamworks animated movie, Kung Fu Panda 4. If you're new to the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications, and join me in the comment section to share your thoughts on Kung Fu Panda 4 if you've seen it, and if you haven't, what are your expectations? Let me know. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Now, I am just such a huge fan of the Kung Fu Panda franchise. These are characters and movies I really feel like I've grown up with. I was 4 months old when the first one came out, 3 years old for the second one, and 8 years old for the third. And though the third is the only one I remember seeing in theaters, my mom says I saw all three, so I definitely believe her, even if I don't remember. But I did watch these movies a lot on DVD in between them coming out and the present day. And these are just movies that really mean a lot to me. So very much being a fan of Po, Shifu, and this whole amazing world that DreamWorks has created around ancient China with all these awesome cartoon animal characters, I was very excited to revisit this world again as a 16-year-old and see all these characters I have grown up with. However, I was very much iffy about this newest film, but I was still excited because I was kind of cautiously optimistic because looking at the trailers, there were a few things that didn't really gel with me that well. The humor wasn't really working. I was kind of nervous about like the Furious 5 not being in any of the advertisement. But either way, this movie was way better than I expected when my brother Artie and I went to go see it on Friday night. So here is everything I thought about this movie, starting with what I liked about it. Now, very much an amazing character in this movie is Jack Black as Po, because he is my favorite film character of all time, so naturally I was extremely excited to see him again. Jack Black's had a lot of awesome roles over the years. You know, he's Dewey in School of Rock, he's Jables in Tenacious D, he's Bowser in the Mario movie, but I really think out of all his performances, the only one that's gonna like rip your heart out and make you cry is Po from Kung Fu Panda. So for me, Po is and always will be Jack Black's best role. And his performance in this newest movie is nothing short of fantastic. He certainly has a good and relatable character arc here about maybe having to take the maturity to move on to the next chapter of your life, and I think that's something really inspiring for a lot of people. So he's definitely a great character in this film. Another great performance was Aquafina as Zhang. Now, I watched the trailers and I very much expected and prepared myself to hate this character. I know that sounds super mature, but I was worried she was gonna upstage Po after so many Mary Sue characters and sequels like this, and I really thought it was gonna be one of those things where she comes in, makes the pre-established characters look like chumps. The directors don't do really anything to make us like her except for her being like misunderstood or whatever. And so I was kind of like, uh-oh, I'm not going to like this character. That's something I'm not going to like about this movie, especially the fact that she was in here in the place of the Furious 5, and she's being trained as the successor for the Dragon Warrior title, so she really has a lot to live up to. But my God, did this character win me over. She's got a great story with a powerful background, very unique for the Kung Fu Panda world, and a different character from Po. She reminded me a lot of a fusion between two different Disney characters, those being Judy Hopps from Zootopia and Vanellope von Schweetz from Wreck-It Ralph. So basically just imagine like the best traits of either one combined and then thrown into the Kung Fu Panda universe. Then you just have the recipe for a great character. So while I was very much expecting to hate this character, by the end of the movie, I definitely wanted to see more of her. So that's definitely a great thing on the part of the writers, the directors, and Aquafina for really putting everything into this character. Then we got Ian McShane as Tai Lung. I really didn't realize how much I missed his evil British accent until how good it was to hear again after 16 years. I won't give it away, but he serves a really great part to this story that I did not see coming, and it's really just awesome for Po's character to have Tai Lung come back, and he is just as badass as ever. You know, there was a great subplot surrounding Po's dads, those being James Hong as Ping, who is just amazing and hilarious as ever, and it's great to see more of Brian Walter White Cranston as Li Shan. He's great at voice roles, and he might just be the best performance in this whole movie. He's so funny. And then there's some great new performances from Viola Davis, Ke Huy Quan, and even Mr. Beast, who makes a short cameo appearance. So it's just a stacked movie all across the board in terms of the voice acting department. The visuals are just stunning and gorgeous here, very much on par with the first three movies. Every frame is just full of color and an absolute work of art, so I'm grateful I got to see this on the big screen. And then we got some of the best action sequences in the entire franchise. We get our first ever Kung Fu Panda bar fight, and yes, that is as awesome as it sounds. There's some great music in here. There's this awesome orchestral meets Chinese traditional cover of Crazy Train by Hans Zimmer and Steve Mazzaro. And as always, they absolutely deliver on the score. And then Tenacious D, one of the greatest bands of all time, did a cover of Hit Me Baby One More Time by Britney Spears, and my God, does it slap. It might have just dethroned the Cha-Cha Freestyle as my favorite song of 2024 so far. So as a hardcore Kung Fu Panda fan, there is a lot to love about this movie, but at the same time, there are some things I was iffy about. So now let's get on to the mixed qualities. I'm going to start by addressing the elephant in the room. Certain characters from the first 3 films are featured more than others. Some are key parts of the story, while others are barely more than a cameo. Master Shifu, for example. He's an amazing character in the first 3 movies, but he's barely featured in this 4th one, which is kind of a letdown considering how awesome he is. The best way to form expectations for who does and doesn't show up in this movie is to just sort of look at the trailers and advertising as proper representation for who serves what purpose in the story. And if you go in not expecting more than what's seen in the trailers, you'll be surprised and you will be excited, but if you're really expecting everybody from the first 3 movies to show up, then there may or may not be a little bit of disappointment. Now, there were a couple things about the movie that I actually didn't like, so now we're going on to the bad parts, and the first thing I want to address is the fact that a lot of the humor here just doesn't land. It was laugh out loud funny at times, but it is very hit or miss in terms of this humor. Like, there's these psychopathic bunny children from the trailers that I just didn't find funny. I found weird and disturbing, and they do some really cringy stuff to Poe that makes me question my faith in society as we know it. And there are a few things like that in the movie where it was like I felt like the people making the movie thought it was a little bit funnier than it actually was. And like if you're over the age of 7, a lot of this stuff doesn't really click. This is also generally a movie that doesn't take very many risks. It plays it safe in a lot of ways. The first 3 films were definitely very violent and brutal, something you wouldn't expect in animated movies, and that's part of why they revolutionized the genre. They took risks to help it evolve and grow forward. By making an animated movie very much not for kids in particular ways, it kind of sticks with them more. Why else do you think Disney movies have been so successful for a whole century? Absolute nightmare fuel. And a lot of the Dreamworks movies are kind of the same way. Kung Fu Panda 4, though, doesn't take very many risks. It's very much a kid's movie that plays it safe. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it's not going to have a great impact or be anybody's single favorite movie of all time. So that is definitely something that kind of holds it back from being superior to the first 3 films. There's also a very strong lacking of emotional depth in this 4th film. Each of the first 3 Kung Fu Panda movies has an emotional hook, the first one being Poe learning to accept himself and Shifu facing his inner demons from his past failures, the second being the scary truth about Poe's origins, and the third being the weight of Poe meeting his biological father and how Ping tries coping with this change. And that really creates for some awesome story. Each movie has a devastating scene or two that like absolutely rips your heart out. And that's why these movies are so great. There aren't really any devastating moments in this newest one though. This is the only Kung Fu Panda movie that doesn't make me cry. And while that doesn't make it a bad movie, that definitely makes it the weakest of the 4 Kung Fu Panda films. And part of that expectation of going into a Kung Fu Panda movie is the strong emotional gut punch. You want to get your heart ripped out, like you're ready for some really devastating, really powerful stuff. So I was very much kind of expecting something along those lines, but that just did not happen. Gonna wrap up here with some of my final thoughts. This is very much a fun, entertaining movie with unique characters and setting that is strongly appealing in the visuals department. It continues the original trilogy without any character assassination. It builds off on the characters and stories set up in the first 3 films, and it doesn't do anything to undermine it, which is something you really have to respect and something I'm really glad about. I really recommend this to anyone who is a hardcore fan of Kung Fu Panda or anybody that has kids or is a kid or has younger siblings or something who likes going to the movies. It's a great family movie. It's a great Kung Fu Panda movie, but I don't really know if it's the greatest animated movie ever made. That would be one heck of an overstatement. I all around give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. It is very solid, and it's honestly kind of better than the trailers, so the trailers are still very much an accurate representation of the movie. So I recommend you check it out. I had a great time. Have you seen Kung Fu Panda 4? If so, what did you think of it? And if you haven't seen it, How do you think it's going to be? Let us know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear everything that you have to say about this video. Thanks again, YouTube, for tuning in. Until next time, I will see you on the flip side.